Hey guys, it's Judy from Nutrition with Judy. Welcome.
Go ahead, man.
Okay, so let's talk about sweeteners and sugars. I am getting a ton of questions about this. When it comes to sugar and sweeteners, I am a hard no. And the reason is a lot of us have poor relationships with food. And the reason is it's primarily because of the addiction to sugar. So I know many of us, especially keto followers, believe in stevia, in erythritol and monk fruit. But let's talk through some of these right now. All right, so there are some studies that show that even if your glucose does not go up consuming these sweeteners, your insulin is going up. There are some studies with rats that show that it does go up. And remember, at the end of the day, we don't really care about glucose. We actually care about what glucose does to insulin. It is when we are insulin resistant, when we eat too many glucose molecules, that's when our insulin becomes resistant, and that's when we get diabetes and other metabolic diseases. It is not glucose alone that we care about, but what it does to insulin. And so when you consume these food products, these sweeteners, they do raise insulin. Now, I know many of you guys will say that insulin is raised by anything, and it's true. So when you eat a little bit of meat, it does have a little bit of an insulin response, but is nothing compared to how sugar functions with insulin. But let's just take the stance that insulin is not affected by these sweeteners. But let's look at a different facet. All right, so do you know what erythritol is made out of? And some stevia blends, actually most of them use a blend of erythritol. So do you guys know what it's made out of? It's made out of corn, and most likely it is made out of non-organic corn. So every time you consume erythritol, you are getting your fix of GMO corn that is glyphosate rich, Roundup ready, and you are consuming that. But guys, this erythritol, it's the same corn that also makes high fructose corn syrup, it makes corn syrup, and it makes ethanol. How can this product, this corn-made erythritol, have no impact to glucose and fructose and insulin when it is the same product that makes corn syrup? What finagling did scientists do for this product that normally would spike your glucose, have no effect on your glucose, but make it taste so sweet on your brain? And there's no impact on your glucose monitors. It's pretty scary. All right, let's talk a little bit about digestion. So I hope you guys know by now that digestion starts when we see and we smell food. We start to salivate, and those are salivatory enzymes that start the digestion process. So what happens when our brain tastes sweet on our tongue, but then there is only chemicals to process in the digestive system? What exactly happens to our body? There's gotta be some adverse chemical effect to our digestive process as well as our overall health. There are some studies of rats that are completely addicted to cocaine. And so they have this drip and cocaine just comes out, and so they're consuming it all the time. And then this is a crazy part, but as soon as they taste sugar, they don't care about the cocaine anymore, and all they care about is the sugar. That is how addictive sugar is. It's so addictive that rats that are addicted to cocaine, which we all know is an addictive substance, they would prefer the sugar over cocaine. There is another study where rats are pulling a cord, and every time they pull the cord, a little drip of sugar water comes out. And so they're confined into this space, and that is all they get. So then they learn to pull the cord so that they can get their drip of sugar. And over time, the researchers open the door so that they have access to the outside, they even have access to family, and they have access to all these other foods. And guess what these rats do? They don't care about anything else, but they just wait and obsessively pull the cord to try to get sugar. Guys, this is how scary and addictive sugar is. And then guys, imagine what it does to our body and our kids' bodies. We are consuming way more sugar than any of those rats were tested in the laboratories. If you guys are more interested in how the biology and chemistry breakdown of sugars occurs, there's a very good talk by Dr. Robert Lustig that I will put in the show notes. I highly recommend all of you guys to watch it. Okay, and then lastly, I know this is anecdotal, but I did not consume any sugars, any sodas, any diet sodas, anything with artificial sweeteners or natural sweeteners for over 6 months, and guys, I had absolutely no cravings. Even in times that I would normally turn to food and crave sugar, and in moments of stress when I would normally turn to food, I never had the craving to do that. It just never turned on. Guys, for 12 years, I struggled with disordered eating. Any reason I could have, any emotion I felt, good or bad, anytime I wanted an escape, anytime I wanted to celebrate, I turned to food. I would turn to food, and then it would eventually become a binge and then a purge and just a disastrous cycle. I never went through that during those 6 months. I used to escape with food. I used to numb with food. I used to cope with food. And none of that existed during those months of absolutely zero sugar and zero sweeteners. On keto, I would still use those sweeteners. I would still drink diet sodas, and I would have erythritol laced keto bombs. But the thing is, those covered me during days that I was strong. When I was mentally strong, those sweetener laced sugary foods were good. But when it became times that I was stressed or where my emotions were high, those sugary foods were the exact foods that made me crave sugar and that made me end up turning to a binge. If you guys remove the sweeteners, it will change your palate, it will change your taste buds, and things will change for the long term. On carnivore, if you remove all sugars and all sweeteners, I promise you it will be a game changer. It is so hard at first. Your body will crave sugar, but if you give it a true chance, if you give this 75 days a true chance without sweeteners or sugars, it will be a game changer. You will not crave sugar. I can promise you that. But you have to remove the sweeteners and the sugars. That is the only way. And that is why I am very firm about the zero carb, zero sugar, zero sweeteners in this community challenge. Just think about the studies that I just told you guys about. Think about how these chemical scientists make these sweeteners that are hundreds of times sweeter than sugar, and that even though it doesn't raise your glucose, it's derived from plants that would typically raise your glucose, and your brain thinks it's sweet, but in your digestive process and all that, it is waiting for the sugar to come. It can't be good for you. I honestly believe that the longer you keep these sweeteners in your body, the longer you leave a little bit of sugar in your body, the longer you will have your sugar addiction and your food addictions. And the studies show how real the sugar addiction is. It's more addictive than cocaine. So please guys, while you have the community support, while we're going through this Carnivore 75 hard community challenge, please cut the sugars and sweeteners. You guys will not regret it. And don't use a glucose monitor or a ketone monitor to justify you consuming these foods, because when you check, there's no jump in those monitors. Remember, we are looking at insulin and none of those measure insulin. If you guys cut these foods, if you cut the sweeteners and the sugars, I assure you that you can have food freedom. I am so sure of this that after 6 months of you fully cutting out sugar and sweeteners, if you guys still have any tendencies of binging, I say come talk to me, email me, and I will work with you for free. That is how sure I am that if you cut sugars and sweeteners, your life will change and your relationship with food will change. So guys, again, no sugars and sweeteners during this challenge. If your BHB or your electrolyte mix or anything that you use as a supplement has sweeteners in it, please do not use those during this challenge. The longer you have those in your system, the more you will crave sugars, and during hard times you will go for the real sugars, and it is just this unhealthy cycle. Remove the sugars and feel food freedom. The beginning will be hard. It will be a struggle. Getting off drugs is a chemical imbalance that you'll have to work through, and you'll have to struggle through it until your body finds a new balance. The sugar addiction is no different. Your body will crave the sugars, the toxins, and until you give it, it will fight you. But eventually it will give up and you will feel food freedom and you will feel transformed. This is the best time to wean off. You have the whole community behind you. All right, moments of weakness. As Halloween is coming up, and for some of you guys, Diwali is coming up, I just wanted to say a few things. Don't focus on the things that you can't eat, that you are giving up, but focus on what you are gaining. We have come to be a society where we think, oh, I can't eat that, I have to give that up, I have to give this or that up. change your mindset. It's these foods that stole your life from you, and so you are just taking back your life. Change your thoughts to what you are gaining. You are gaining life. You are gaining freedom. You are gaining health and happiness. What food is worth losing all of this for? What food are you giving up life for? Change your mindset. Stop thinking that you're giving up or not able to eat certain things. Those foods were never good for you from the beginning, and they are the foods that have stolen your life from you. All right, guys, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.